The other day, guys, I released a video talking about the Chimera changes, and from my point of view, it did, easier, especially in terms of completing more trials. Now, a lot of you guys said in the comments that the Chimera feels much harder for you now. Your team dies faster, the lion form absolutely obliterates your team, etc. So in today's video, we're going to do the ultimate guide for the Chimera. If you're a beginner, feel free to watch it as well, because you're going to learn a lot of tips from this video. What we are going to do, we're going to talk about how to counter the Chimera mechanics. We're going to talk about builds. I'm going to do a full run to basically show you what type of actions / decisions I'm taking throughout the run. Now, there is no secret. No matter what content we have in the game, manualing it will be much better than doing a run on auto. It's just because your brain is better than the AI's brain. Now, of course, not every single one of you guys will want to sit in here every single week and manual the Chimera, which is fine. One thing you should be aware is that it will be much harder for your team to perform well, because you cannot select it on auto if the AI plays when you're using the skills. So the Viper form can steal your immunity, it can smack you. The Lion form can smack you. The Ram form can smack you. The regular form can smack you even more if you have too many buffs right before it changes to the initial form. So I do want to say that even my team on my main account, right, because I'm on the test server right now, because I can move gear around and all that stuff. I don't need to make a mess. But even my team that has Galatir, it has another mythical damage dealer. Like, this is kind of like my team on the account, right? This team struggles on auto too, and that's mainly because they don't know when to use the skills. So that will be a problem for every single one of us. But when we are going on manual, we actually have more control on what we are doing. I'm not going to run this team. I will run Mikage though, but I'm going to run a slightly different team. We're going to run Ninja, and instead of Galatir, we're going to run Elva Outborn. And we are going to go on the highest difficulty. One thing that you need to keep in mind, positioning is very important. So always put a speed lead, if you have one available, in the first slot. In the second slot, if you are using Lydia, you should be using Lydia in that slot. And that is mainly because of the order of the ally attacks. So on the Ram form, you will have a trial that will require you to deal damage while the boss is under fear or through fear. In order to do that, you want to make sure that every single one of the champions will go after Lydia. Of course, not Nekmotar, because he's my lead, but Lady Mikage, Ninja, and of course we have Elva will go after Lydia. I think Lady Mikage will attack and then the rest will, but it doesn't really matter. The main thing is you want your damage dealer and another champion, if possible, to go after Lydia just to ramp up more damage. She will land the fear through the ally attack, and then bang, Ninja is going to do more damage, activating the trial. Another thing, some of the changes basically made to the Ram form will enable you now to stop the boss from absolutely wrecking you when you have fear or through fear. Now on Lydia, as you guys can probably notice, I have a different blessing. So this blessing is actually going to be extremely important. It doesn't matter if it's 1 star, 2 star, 3 stars, or whatever you might have available. The main thing is that Nature's Bounty will enable you to have a chance to put the true fear on the Ram form, which will reflect 0 damage back. So very important. Another thing that is pretty important versus the Ram form is if you can bring in Leech. Now, that is not a problem if you do not have Nekmotar. That is not a problem if you cannot bring that Leech every single time. But when we are going versus the Ram form, Lydia's Masteries will have the possibility to land Leech when she lands Fear. Now for that, you cannot go on offense or support. You need to pick one or the other and then go down on the defense tree. So if you come to Harvest Despair, a 60% chance of placing Leech debuff for 1 turn when placing crowd control debuffs, which is a very high chance. Now, if I remember it correctly, you can actually... you can't actually, okay. So you cannot increase the chance of placing the leech with the sniper. I thought that maybe you can, but it seems like you cannot. So that gives you another solution at how to deal with the leech. Why is the leech important on the RAM form? Mainly because your damage dealer, if you do not land the true fear and you only land fear, the boss is still going to reflect damage. But that leech can potentially keep him alive. So that's why it's important to try and bring in a leech as well. Then, you want to have a brimstone on one of your champions. Initially, my Lydia had a brimstone because she had a 5-star, but now I actually gave it to Lady Mikage at 3-star. Now that most likely is going to cost me a little bit, but brimstone brings tons and tons of damage versus the Chimera. So it's very important to have it at least on one of your champions. It will be really good versus the RAM form as well, where you will require to deal damage with HP burn, poisons, or brimstone. That will enable you to tick another trial. Now, if we're going to talk about the RAM form for a little bit, basically, you will realize that the boss will attack a target, and if the boss does not kill that target, it will enable the so-called live bar or dual effect, whatever the heck is called, right? Which will stop that character from using any of the active skills. It will only be able to use the basic skill. Now, you do not really want to do that because regardless of what character you're picking, you're going to miss out on landing debuffs or buffing your team or stuff like that. So you always want to make sure that that champion that gets targeted by the boss will die. Now, Skratch, how does the boss target the champion? Will always target the champion with the lowest crit damage. So one of the very first things and the most important things you need to keep in mind, your reviver cannot be the target. Your reviver cannot have the lowest amount of crit damage. So my Elva has 172 crit damage, right? The champion that I want the boss to attack is going to be Nekmotar. So Lydia has 200 crit damage. Lady Mikage has 155 crit damage. Nekmotar has 128 crit damage. So the RAM form will always, no matter what, always attack the first time Nekmotar. Now you gotta pay attention to Lady Mikage, for example. She does buff increased crit damage. If you have the Masteries that will extend the duration of buffs, that could potentially be a bit of an issue. Nekmotar takes extra turns, which means that he's going to drop the buff more often than the other champions, so that increased crit damage can still be left on some of your other champions, which might skew up the whole thing. So you need to keep that in mind. Moving on to the Lion form. This got buffed. It hits much harder. It does have an AoE attack now, so that will cause issues to a lot of players. Now, one thing to keep in mind with the Lion form, the Lion form will always attack and debuff the champion with the highest defense in the entire team. One thing that you really want to avoid, once again, is making sure that your reviver is not the champion with the highest defense. If your reviver is the champion with the highest defense, most likely is going to get absolutely obliterated by the boss. So my Elva has high HP instead and lower defense. Another thing to keep in mind with the Chimera all around, especially the base form, is that the more trials you complete, the more special effects it gains, like ignore defense, etc. So having high defense on your characters is going to be more or less irrelevant in the long run, especially if you're going for trials. So in this case, my highest defense champion is going to be Lady Mikage. Why? Because she's the least important champion versus the Lion form. Yes, I do need to get the ally attack and everything else into complete trials, but I would rather have Lydia alive to give me the strengthen buff and Nekmotar to put a decreased speed and the decreased attack. A decreased attack, once again, is really, really important versus the Chimera. Sometimes even my team gets absolutely wrecked if I do not have it, right? So in my case, we have Lady Mikage with 4.8k defense, 84k HP. Then we have Nekmotar with 4.2k defense, 76k HP. And Lydia, she's actually built with a bit of attack. It seems like she does have 4.8k defense, which might actually mess up my plans a little bit. So I'm quickly going to change something on Lydia. I really don't know how I have so much defense on her, but good that I checked, you see, because I've missed that part. Probably something around... How does she have so much defense, though? What gives you so much defense, Lydia? I'm very curious to know that. Either way, I'm not sure what gives her so much defense, because I literally just have this defense. This is crit rate. This is attack. This is speed, right? How do I have so much defense on my Lydia? No freaking clue. But let's see if we can actually change this to something else that will drop some of the defense. But it seems like we might not be able to do it. Actually, this drops 300, which should be more than fine. So now we have less defense than Lady Mikage. That was odd. Now, because Lady Mikage has the highest defense, she will get attacked pretty often. So in order to try and keep her alive more often and don't get destroyed, I'm going to show you what you can do to basically get a bit of help. Use a golden elixir relic on her. This will boost her HP every time she drops under 50%. And trust me, it will happen pretty damn often. So having this is really, really important. Another thing you could do versus the lion form, and that requires a bit of more work, depending on what affinities we have, try to put the highest defense on a character that's strong affinity to the lion form. Like that, the lion form will deal a lot of damage, but a lot of weak hits as well, which will make it easier for you to keep that champion alive. Now, of course, that's not something that will work every single time, but it's still something that will work pretty damn well. So let me just quickly bring back my Elva in the team and my ninja, because I backed out of the screen from mistake. So we're gonna go like this. Then, moving on to one of the final things, which is the Viper form. Okay, so the Viper form, the very first skill will steal your buffs. If you guys go into a run with immunity, with increased speed, with increased attack, with increased crit damage, and all that stuff, the Viper form will instantly steal those buffs, which will make it extremely hard for you guys to be able to keep your team alive. Okay, those poisons with poison sensitivity do a lot of damage. If an ally dies and necrosis procs, the first revive attempt is not going to work. You're not going to be able to revive. So that necrosis stack will continuously do damage on your team. So you want to time it in such a way that you do not have buffs when you get to the Viper form. Nothing if possible, okay? Then, the next and the final thing, literally this time around, is going back to the base form. Now, the base form, guys, will steal all of your buffs. Before attacking, removes all buffs from all enemies. The damage inflicted by this skill increases by 10% for each buff removed. If every single cycle, especially once you are completing a lot of trials, you're moving back from the Lion, Viper, or Ram form back to the base form with a lot of buffs, it's very likely that the boss will kill all of your champions or a few of your champions, which will make it much harder to recover and deal damage. So once again, you want to make sure you are timing that right. I did forget one thing to say about the Viper form, and that is the importance of bringing in a block active skill debuff, which Lydia brings in with the A3. So very, very important, because if you're keeping the skills locked on the Viper form, you're basically canceling all of its mechanics, which will make your life much easier. But without further ado, I'm going to share the builds with you guys at the end, and we're going to discuss about that. I'm quickly going to show you how I'm playing Chimera, and I'm going to advise you basically on every single move. Grab your popcorn, grab your coffee, or whatever else you might be having, because this will end up in being a pretty damn long video. So I'm not buffing right here because the boss will steal my buffs. I'm not buffing with her either, but what I'll be doing is put a decreased speed with Negmotar. I will put the defense down with Lydia now because, hey, that's the best thing I can do. And in order to start building ninjas passive, I'm gonna start using the skills. So we'll land the HP burn. You see, we had no decrease attack. I have a pretty well-built team. And look at their HP. So expect to see the same thing on your account as well. This form was always hitting this hard. Now, the more buffs this form will steal from you, the more damage will deal. So now we can actually start buffing. We can do the ally attack. We do have the leech and everything else that we need. What I gotta make sure I'm landing now is the block buffs ASAP. So hopefully I'm still gonna have room. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Now, I know for a fact right now that if I'm going to use that, Lydia will land poison sensitivity and will not apply the block buffs, which sucks because the boss is about to get the increased speed. The most important buffs and debuffs in this fight is having decreased speed and increased speed. The turn count limit works completely different than Hydra, Clan Boss, or any other content in the game. So the more turns you can take to overlap the boss, the more beneficial it will be for your team to overall generate more damage. So we're going to do that. Use the A1. I'm not going to use the A2 from Lady Mikage because I've just said it. I know that a boss will be gaining increased speed. So I want to decrease the duration of that buff once he gains the buff. Plus, I do not want to extend the duration of debuffs on the boss because then I won't be able once again to land the block buffs. So I'm going to let the boss take a turn, drop some of those debuffs, so then I can continue to up the rest. I will buff that with Lydia to try and put a weaken. Seems like we got resisted, unfortunately. I will go with Ninja and the HP burn because the HP burn will generate more damage. So the boss gained the increased speed. Now I'm going to do that. And we have 2, 4, 6, 8. Perfect. We have the increased speed, the decreased speed. What we do not have on the boss right now is Leech, okay? So instead, I'm going to go with the A1. I'm not going to use the A2 from Necmo because I want to put these debuffs instead. Once one of those poisons will expire, then I'll be able to basically go in with Necmo and use the A2 again. Now, right now, the boss is about to control our team and use the provoke skill. I'm going to put that immunity up, do a bit of damage. I'm still going to go just with the A1. There's no point to waste that skill from Necmo. And one thing that I need to keep in mind is that I need to get the weaken back on the boss, okay? So I could use an ally attack right here. The thing is, the boss is about to use the skill that will remove all of my buffs. So if I self-buff now, if I buff my ninja and the rest, they're going to take a turn and then they're going to lose the increased attack and the increased crit damage, which overall will reduce my damage. So I'll rather wait and use it straight after the boss takes a turn. I will put a decreased speed right now to have it up and running. I will try and apply the weaken too if I don't have too many debuffs. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Unfortunately, too many to land the weaken. But I will explain you why I have that toxic set on my Lady Mikage in a little bit. So let's use this skill as well a bit. Not going to use that and not going to use this either. We're going to wait a little bit longer. So we're going to go A1. Not the increased speed because the boss just took a turn. I'm going to put the block buffs right now. And now I could use this, even though sometimes I do not use it. I'm going to go with Lady Mikage's ally attack skill. I'm going to go with Ninja, do a bit of damage. I will boost my turn meter with Necmo. I will drop the decreased speed again, even though it's not really a necessity because I had it for 2 turns. I'm going to go A1 on Lydia. And with Lady Mikage right now, I am on Chimera turn count 4. I'm actually going to Metamorph. The reason why I'm Metamorphing now is to have this skill ready as soon as I get to the Ram form. And like that, I will be in control and I'll be able to Metamorph back instantly and start using ally attack skills and stuff that's going to be more important. Now, you will require the increased accuracy for a trial versus the Ram form. But we're going to talk about that in a second. For the moment, I'll just be using the A1 on her. So we go A1 like that. A1 again. I want to make sure I do have the cleanse and immunity from Elva. Right now, I do not need to use this skill because I want to have it available for the next form because the boss is about to metamorph. Every 5 turns, the boss metamorphs to a different form. So if you're doing this run on auto, your champions will automatically waste all of these skills. When they get to the next form, they won't have the skills available, which will reduce your damage, which will mess up your trials, etc. So we're going to go A1. she can get the job done as it is. A1 once again. I can go with this skill with Ninja. It doesn't matter. A1. A1. A1 once again. A1 once again. And now the boss metamorphs and it will kill my Nekmotar. Beautiful. Now I'm going to revive. Now, one thing that did not work perfectly for me right now is the fact that my Lady Mikage is moving much slower than the other 3 champions. So putting that increased accuracy buff will mess it up a little bit, but that is fine. As long as your reviver moves first or second on the ramp form, you're going to be fine because you have time to revive and then put the immunity. You need the immunity because this boss will attempt to stun you and land tons of debuffs. So I'm going to go with the A3 on Ninja. We lost him, unfortunately. He dealt a lot of damage. So I'm going to go A1 with Lydia. That fear is going to get removed because the boss has a passive that transfers back the debuff onto the attacker, the first debuff. I'm going to boost the thermometer, and I'm actually going to go with the A1. I'm not sure why my Lady Mikage is so freaking slow because I do not remember changing gear on her, but she seems to be taking turns very, very slow. So I'm going to use the increased accuracy. We landed 1 debuff. I need to land 6 more in order to complete that trial. I will put the immunity on. I will use the A3 now because that brings me 2 debuffs, not 1. Okay, so the boss deals a lot of damage. We're going to put that. So we have 2 more debuffs. Right now, I can actually metamorph with Lady Mikage. And I can actually increase the duration of buffs/debuffs. Right? We landed 1 more poison in there. I can go A1. And now I can land the defense down, which should complete the first trial. 7 trials, gone. Now, my next priority is reviving as fast as possible. Okay? So I'm going to get Ninja up and running. The boss attacked, that's fine. I'm going to boost the thermometer. I'm going to land the decreased speed leech once again on the boss. I'm going to go with the A1 to put the fear. Now, I can try and use the ally attack. I'm not sure if my Ninja will survive this, considering that he is so low, but I'll try. So we're going to see. We have a bit of a shield, and Ninja gain back HP. Now, one of the things that went a bit wrong in here is the fact that the boss is strong affinity, and if I've seen it right, I think we weak hit. So that's why my Ninja stayed alive. But right now, I still have the fear. And hopefully, we're going to keep him alive. But unfortunately, he did not stay alive. Which is actually really weird because with my Toshiro, I was able to keep him alive all the time. And that is extremely, extremely strange to me. Because I really did not have anything different in terms of builds. I actually moved the gear from my Toshiro to Ninja. My Ninja is empowered at +4. Toshiro is not, so Ninja has higher stats all around in terms of survivability. Really not sure why Toshiro was staying alive and Ninja is not, even though we have the fear on. But the main thing is we haven't managed to land the true fear because of the blessing that we have on Lydia. So I am hoping that at some point we're going to be able to do it. Now, right now, I want to make sure I'm keeping that defense down and weaken on the boss, and it's not getting replaced by nothing. I do not want to extend the duration of debuffs on the boss, because I want those poisons to go from there. So I'm going to have to basically go in at it again and revive at some point, whenever I can. So we're going to do that again, even though we don't have to. I'm going to go A1 with Lydia. So still, just fear, not true fear, which kind of sucks. Now, I will extend the duration of debuffs. Now I'm going to revive. And I'm hoping that before we get to attack the boss, Lydia will change that into true fear. And unfortunately, it did not happen. So my Ninja is going to die again. But at the same time, we're going to do some more damage as well. You see, so we got 1 weak hit, 1 strong hit. But we are putting slowly up some numbers for these trials. Now, because I only have a 5-star blessing on Lydia, as you guys can probably notice, that blessing did not proc yet. And that is maybe just bad luck for me, is unfortunate. But hey, it is what it is. No need to debuff with Nekmotar because the boss already had a decreased speed. Now that's where the tricky part comes in play. I have protected buffs, but I do not need to land any other debuffs. And the true fear just freaking proc now when my Ninja was dead. And the passive from the boss proc and return the true fear to my Lydia, as you guys can probably notice, which really sucks. Now, I'm not going to use the ally attack. What I'm going to try is basically when I get back to this form, okay, is to try and recover all of this lost damage. I have plenty of time for these 2 trials, not enough for this one right here. So we're gonna go A1 again. Indeed, this form is way more difficult than the others. So I'm gonna revive Ninja, even though he's gonna have some buffs, they're at least protected. Which means that the boss might not kill him, because the boss won't be able to steal any buffs from me now. So we used one last ally attack right there. Ninja survived, because we had the buffs protected from my Elva. And now we can continue to basically push through this form without focusing on trials. Now, as you can notice, it is much harder to get the trials done. I can actually use this skill from Elva, because I should have it back on cooldown in a minute. Now, one mistake that I've just done was using Lydia's A2 instead of the A3, even though I've just noticed that the boss most likely will take a turn before my Lydia goes in front of him. So I'm gonna use this skill in the hope that Lydia will get to tick before the boss and push the turn meter, and we did. So we have the block buffs, and now I'll extend the duration of debuffs and increase the duration of my buffs with Lydia. So I have everything nice and juicy there. It will probably be a bit of a problem with my Ninja dealing damage versus the Force Affinity across all of the other forms, but we're gonna see if we are able to get to the top chest as it is. So we're already 12 minutes in, guys. As I've mentioned, it will be a long video. What I'm going to try to do, I'm going to try and put some timestamps for you, especially for the Chimera forms, because maybe some of you guys understand very well the mechanics and you're only struggling with a specific form. So in order to help you with that, I'll do some timestamps to basically allow you to easily navigate across the video. So ally attack. Once again, I've done the mistake of using it. I've just realized that the boss is about to use that skill that will strip all of my buffs. So I'm going to lose a lot of these buffs right now, which is a shame. But that's fine. Let's do as much damage as possible. So let's make the most out of it. At least some of them are protected, which is good. I'm not going to buff with Elva. No need to buff or debuff. I'm going to let them take their turns. You see, we lost a few buffs. I have defense down and weaken for 2 turns. I'm going to use the A3 instead from Lydia. I can keep that skill up and running. I'm going to increase the duration of buffs, debuffs. I'm going to use this with Ninja. I could use this right now because it's not a problem. The only problem when... the only time when it is not a problem going through a form to another with buffs is when you're going from the base form to the lion form. For the ram form, you want to be prepared with the skills available. For the others, you kind of like want to dodge them. But for the lion form, it really makes no difference if you have buffs or you have no buffs, right? So we're gonna go in with buffs this time around. Now, as you guys probably noticed, I only metamorph with Lydia once, and I'm not going to do it again, okay? Maybe if I get to the Viper form and I need to bring in another debuff, like the... actually, no, it's not going to help me. So, no, I'm not going to metamorph again. So, we're going to go on to the Lion form. And here, Mikage is going to be the main target. Or rather said, the Lion's victim. Because he will 1000% try to absolutely destroy her. Now, the good thing is that she is not weak affinity. She's actually the same affinity as the boss, which is pretty good because he's not going to get a lot of strong hits versus her. Right, so here we go. You see? That debuff went on her because she has the highest defense. That's why it's very important to have that. I'm going to boost the thermometer. I'm going to put a decreased speed and leech. I'm going to go A1 right here to try and land the defense down if we can. Ninja, of course, is going to weak hit quite a bit. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if I'm going to cleanse right now, the boss will instantly counterattack the target that has the debuff, which in my case is Lady Mikage. So you need to keep in mind, do I have decreased attack on the boss? Should I put decreased attack on the boss before I cleanse or not? But just to show you what happens, I'm going to use the cleanse. You see? The boss attacked Mikage and my Elva. So now we're going to land the debuffs. We're going to bring defense down and weaken. We're going to go with Ninja with the A3 skill, so we decrease the cooldown of the other one. We have the decrease attack. We can increase the duration of debuffs. We can go A1, get some continuous heals on Lydia. We can put more debuffs, so at least we boost the damage. Once again, Lady Mikage's HP dropped a bit below 50 or under or around there. Probably the Relic procced and pushed the HP back too. She got debuffed pretty damn hard. So let's bring the HP burn. Let's bring the damage. Let's use the ally attack. The trials in here will require you to basically damage the Chimera within 3 of its turns while your champions are under 5 unique buffs. So I need to buff with Lady Mikage. Damage the Chimera while under Leech. Leech comes from Negmotar. Now here you cannot land crowd control debuffs on the boss. So the Masteries from Lydia will not be able to land Leech or from any other champion. And the left trial is not possible because I do not have an increased defense, only if I revive Ninja, which is pretty hard to set up in here. So we're going to go A1 once again and A1 once again. Do more damage. You see, we're almost done with that. I'm going to boost the thermometer again so I can rotate faster versus the boss. I'm going to use the A1, ally attack with Ninja, and we got a weak hit. That's fine. I'm going to cleanse. The boss is going to attack her again. You see, there you go. No need to buff with Lydia just yet. I'm going to go with Ninja, and that should complete the 2 trials. Now, the next one will require me to deal damage when the boss is under decreased speed and defense down. I already have those on, so I'm going to go A1. I'm going to increase the duration of debuffs while I'm decreasing the duration of debuffs on myself as well. A1 once again. And Ninja. Weak hit, beautiful. That's exactly what I wanted to see from him. Not at all. Another weak hit. Even better, right? Even better. A1 once again. The debuff expired. The boss hit her pretty hard again, so I'm going to boost. I'm going to debuff. I'm going to use that again, and that should get me close to complete that trial. Now, I don't want to use the ally attack because the next trial will require me to use ally attack to deal damage versus the boss. Now, I've just realized as soon as I said it that I'm already on turn 19, which means that I do not want to use the ally attack on turn 20 because the boss will have a chance to steal all of those buffs after from me. So I'm quickly going to rush to use the ally attack now and think about this trial on the next cycle. And that's fine. You don't have to try and complete all of the trials in the first cycle because you're just going to activate more special abilities on the boss's passive when you complete a lot of trials. So in a way or another, you want to avoid that. We lost Lydia right there. That's fine. The boss dealt quite a bit of damage versus my Ninja. Not a problem. He decided to go for Lydia here. I'm going to revive Lydia so we can try and get some healing back. Hopefully from that Leech. Ninja is back on full HP. I'm going to use this skill. I'm going to go A1 with her. I'm not going to do anything else. A1 with Lydia. We got some HP. She has protected buffs. I'm not going to buff. I'm not going to debuff because I need all of my skills to be available now. Ninja might die or he only lost 50%. Now I will buff with my Elva, get that increased speed up and running ASAP. I'm going to attempt to land the defense down. It did not happen. So I'm going to go like this with Lydia to make sure I'm going to put the block buffs. Now I will buff. Now I'm going to land the decreased speed. So my Lydia will rotate again. So she will go in another cycle to apply the defense down and weaken before the boss takes a turn. I'm going to go like that with Ninja, debuff with Lydia, and let the boss do his own thing, right? Doesn't really matter. Now we can actually continue with the ally attack. The boss is going to provoke us as soon as he takes a turn. So if I can bring in the immunity back with Elva, I will. And that is just perfect right before the boss is taking a turn. But my Mikage should move in front. And probably Ninja as well. There we go. And okay, Lydia too. Because why not? Let the boss take a turn. He cannot provoke nothing. Right now, I do not want to buff. Okay? I want to debuff. The more buffs I'm putting on, the pointless is going to be. Because the boss is going to remove them all if they are not protected. So once again, bang an A1 right there. A1 once again, even though that weaken is about to expire. That's fine. I will apply it next round again as soon as Lydia takes a turn. And she should be one of the first one to take a turn. I will drop that HP burn. Okay, we got it now. Let me just land it now. So we're going to put the weaken back on the boss. Even though we lose those buffs, that's fine. Now, we're moving on to the Viper form. This is the last time when you want to use the immunity buff. You do not want to use that again. Now, thankfully for me, it's all protected. Usually, it doesn't happen like that. So, same thing with the increased speed. You're using it now, but that is about it. You do not want to use it again. Now, I already have the decreased speed on there for 2 turns, so I'm not going to do anything else. I have everything protected, so I'm going to increase the duration of buffs on them rather than use the ally attack. I will save that ally attack for the boss. So I'm going to try to get my HP back. The reason why I increase the duration of debuffs is that maybe, just maybe, some of them will have that immunity when we get onto the Viper form. And because it's protected, the boss won't be able to remove it. But most likely we are going to lose that immunity by the time we get to the boss because everybody's about to take a few more turns. So A1. My main goal right now is to try and lose all of the buffs that are not protected from my champions. So that means that I won't be buffing again. So we lost the buff. That continuous heal somehow is still there, which is fine. Let it be. Same with the one from Lydia. One is not protected. So the boss can steal a shield and a continuous heal, which it seems like he was not able to do it. Now, I have tons of debuffs. Right now, my ninja can potentially die. Okay? Nekmotar, if he takes extra turns, could potentially die. So look at that, how much HP he's dropping, you see? But we do want to put a decreased speed. I will not use the ally attack just yet. I'm just going to go with the A1. I'm going to cleanse. The first thing I'm doing with Lydia is not applying defense down, is locking the boss's skills. Block active skills. He cannot attack all enemies. He cannot remove all of the debuffs from himself and transfer them to me. He can't do any of that crap that's annoying. So right now, he is locked. I'm going to try to put the HP burn. I have that on. I can put a decreased attack. So the trials deal damage with poisons and poison sensitivity. Deal damage while the boss is under a decreased attack and my champions are under increased speed. And deal damage while the boss is under block active skills. Now I could use the ally attack right now, which can be okay, but I have no defense down or weaken. So I'm gonna wait another turn. I will increase the duration of debuffs instead. The poisons will disappear from the boss every single time he takes a turn, regardless. So they will activate and do a bit of damage. Now, they are the small poisons, which don't really do a lot. But hey, they help with filling up the debuff bar, which I need for some trials. So we have the decreased attack. And now Ninja should be ready to go in with the ally attack and complete some trials for me. Increase attack and block immunity. So that's something that we need to do after, okay? But this needs to happen with a single skill, not with multiple skills over time, okay? So once again, I can put the immunity. The boss will attempt to debuff us right here, so you need to keep that in mind. And once my ninja is able to take a turn, he should be able to complete 2 trials. If we don't weak hit too much, okay? And we got this one down, and we got this one down. Now the next one, block buffs and HP burn. I can do that. Not a problem. I have both of the debuffs on the boss, and we're almost done with that one by using 1 hit only. So that is basically how I'm playing Chimera. These are basically the things that you need to keep in mind when you are doing Chimera. If you're doing it on auto, as I've mentioned, the AI does not know all of the things that I've just mentioned, okay? So your team will not perform as good. Now, I've wasted 24 minutes doing this because I'm trying to explain you guys what I'm doing at the same time. Now, of course, you can always do partially auto, partially manual. You pay attention to the run, of course, but you're not doing every single click. When you see that the boss is about to metamorph, you get ready with your skills 1 turn before. 1 turn and a half. When it's about to metamorph again, you maybe want to make sure that you're not going to buff, so the boss won't kill you. And as long as you're following all of the little tips that I've gave you in this video, guys, and especially the things related to the mechanics, which target gets hit first, how is the ram form prioritizing, how is the lion form prioritizing, what is the viper form doing, your team will 1,000,000% improve. Now, I know I said I'm going to do the entire run, but I feel like I've got all of my points across to you. We are almost halfway through, and the damage, even though my damage dealer is going versus a strong affinity and we are weak hitting pretty much non-stop, it doesn't look bad at all. Now, I will try to quickly see if I can complete the final trial. Damage the Chimera while it is under 10 debuffs, but not block active skills. So as you guys can probably notice, that block active skill is about to expire. So I'm going to try to see if I can do that trial quick as well. So we got crowd control on my Elva, which really messed up my entire planning here, but we still might have the potential to do it. Now, I will buff right now, which is going to be very costly. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8 debuffs. If I'm using the A3 right now, she will apply the block active skills again, which sucks. So that means that I'll have to retry this again next round. I have no brimstone, and unfortunately, Lady Mikage did not land another poison. That's why she is built on a toxic cloud specifically for this trial. So I'm not going to buff again. I'm going to let the champions do whatever the heck they want, but don't buff. Because the boss will right now move on to the ultimate form, and he already ignores 25% of the target's defense. If I'm going to complete 16 trials, the boss will ignore 50% of the target's defense and all of these debuffs, and it will gain stats. So that's why it's important to try and get to this form without many buffs, possibly none. Either way, that's pretty much it for the run. We're going to back out of here. I'm going to show you kind of like the result. We are going to do over at least 50 millions over the top chest damage. At least the damage that is required. Because this is turn 31, so not even halfway through. And we already have way more than we need to get to the half point, right? So you need 112 million. This team will do around 150 plus million, even though Ninja is weak affinity. Now, unfortunately, the one thing that is really a bummer, I wasn't able to demonstrate it too well in the video, is the blessing that we have on Lydia and her proccing the True Fear. It didn't happen. The RNG was not on our side. But that's basically what we have at the moment. Ninja did a pretty good job. If I'm quickly going to go over to show you the stats, relics, and everything else that we have on them. So let's start with Lady Mikage. So she is in protection and toxic set. I explained you why I have her on toxic set. These are her total stats. She's a mythical champion. She will ignore 20% of the target's resistance, which means that you don't need to have 500 accuracy on her. So getting everything, anything over what I have is going to be a massive overkill on accuracy and not required. And no, we do not have area bonuses for the Chimera. You want to have a good amount of HP on her, and you want to have the highest defense on her or a different unit based on what strategy you have in mind with your own team. Then, let's go over to Elva. Elva was never in a situation where she was low on HP or almost ready to die. And that's mainly because I countered all of the Chimera mechanics, which are designed to target your reviver, your supports. Those mechanics are in place and designed in such a way that will normally always target your reviver, because you always build your reviver with the highest defense and HP and the lowest crit damage, because they're not going to deal damage. But if you play around with all of these mechanics, your reviver will never be in trouble. So this is full protection. I have a very high amount of HP on her. You definitely do not need this. I honestly do not know how I got to such a high HP on her, but before, when I used to run her instead of Galatir, I used to have around 85k to 90k HP. You can actually check that on some of the previous videos that I dropped on the Chimera. She is the fastest in the team, and it is important to be the fastest in the team, and that's mainly to ensure that when you swap at turn 5 from the main form to the ramp form, she's going to be able to revive Nekmotar before Lady Mikage takes a turn to buff their increased accuracy to complete the trial fast and move on to the next one. So for a relic on her, I have the Demonic Effigy, which gives turn meter when an ally dies. As simple as that. Now, I don't have any crazy gemstones, like mythical gemstones on any of them, because I do not think that they are required to do what I've just done. When we're talking about Masteries, defense, and support, timely intervention, as much damage reduction as possible, okay? One thing that I've just realized that I forgot to show you is the relic on Lady Mikage. I have these gemstones on her. Bosses deal 5% less damage to the wearer. That's really helpful too, versus the lion form, because he's going to target her all the time. Then, moving on to the next champion, and that is Nekmotar. Now, for this particular rotation, I supposed to use the other build on Nekmotar, which was Relentless and Impulse. So I was changing the Affinity Breaker, but I did not realize what rotation we have on, so I left this on. I have two builds on Nekmotar, one Affinity Breaker when we're going versus Magic Affinity, and one Relentless Impulse when we're going versus the rest. That enables us to deal even more damage. But total stats on Nekmotar: 76k HP, 4.2k defense, 330 speed, 500 accuracy. You need 500 accuracy plus on your legendaries to ensure that you're not getting resisted very often. Masteries, we have offense and support, War Master as tier 6. Blessing, we have cruelty on him. Lady Mikage had brimstone, and Elva, I have no idea what she had because I forgot to check. But on Nekmotar, I have the Journal of Necrotos. As you guys can probably notice, I'm using epic or rare relics. No legendary, no Cat's Gaze, none of those fancy things, okay? Journal of Necrotos will boost the turn meter and healing that the wearer will provide. Now, Nekmo doesn't provide healing, but he provides turn meter, so he will push the team even more. Moving on to Lydia. Lydia is actually built on a 9-piece feral set. You get this set from the Siege mode, and this set will enhance the damage. Now, because we're going versus a single target, and Lydia will bring in 5 different debuffs, is actually really, really strong. Because we're going to get 20 to 25% additional damage just because of this gear set. Total stats on Lydia: she is built for a bit of damage with full crit rate, a bit of crit damage, decentish attack. I do not understand how I have that much defense on her, but whatever. I literally have nothing with defense percentage on her, like any of the main pieces. But she still has crazy defense. Relics, none. You can use, if you want, an elixir or something else on her too. Blessing, Nature's Bounty, and Masteries, offense with War Master and support. Keep in mind, you can always use Harvest Despair if you do not have Leech for the ramp form. But as you guys probably noticed, even with Leech, my ninja was still dying. So it seems like that was not helpful enough, unfortunately. And the final champion is Ninja. Now, yes, Ninja is a +4. It does have a 6-star Crushing Rend, which of course will enhance his damage a lot in the Chimera. Crushing Rend is a very, very important blessing in the Chimera on your damage dealer. But I tried not to give him the craziest gear and stats. It does have good stats, but not the craziest ones, okay? 52k HP, which is pretty high, but that's mainly because of the blessing, and the empowerment on its own brings 15,000 HP. Without that, he's not going to have as much. We have 7.6k attack, not a 9k build or anything like that. He's pretty fast. You don't need him as fast, and that's mainly because he gains stir meter with the A1, and that gets the job done without a problem. 2.9k defense, full crit rate, 360 crit damage, 539 accuracy. Now a bit of too much accuracy because I do have an accuracy banner on him. But what enhances the stats on your champions is this. Using oils, using the dust to get the right stats on your gear. And he's not even fully enhanced, okay? Awakened, ascended, whatever the heck it's called. I have an erratic coronet. This is an epic relic. Works absolutely amazing on champions that land debuffs because that will boost their damage. Yes, Cat's Gaze would be much better in the Chimera, but this gets the job done too. I have these gemstones, as you guys can probably notice, invigorated, because I don't have one that boosts the damage, unfortunately. No boss slayer. And target smash boosts our damage by 1% for every 100 accuracy. 5% more damage from here. Blessing, we have Crushing Rend, and Masteries, offense and support. And we have Helm Smasher as tier 6 on Ninja. That was everything for this video, guys. Hopefully you found it helpful. Hopefully you learned something new and you're going to master the Chimera as soon as you close this video. If you enjoyed the content, smash a like, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it and it helps me a lot. And I will catch you all in the next video. Stay safe. Peace.